Okay, let's go.
You know the exhaustion, the stress of tiptoeing around a toxic boss, the suffocating weight of parental expectations, or the quiet, constant fear of what your peers think of you. Moving through daily life often feels like navigating a minefield of other people's demands. At the turn of the 20th century, a psychiatrist named Alfred Adler looked at this exact exhaustion. Adler was an original core member of the Vienna Psychoanalytic Society alongside Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, but he eventually split from them, proposing a view of human suffering that is intensely confrontational. Adler argued that absolutely all human problems, every single source of distress in your life, are at their core interpersonal relationship problems. Even struggles that feel deeply internal require a society to exist. Take loneliness. You cannot feel isolated if you are the only person in the universe. To feel lonely, you need the concept of society, of community, and you need to feel excluded from it. The internal pain is entirely dependent on strands extending outward to other people. We only become individuals within a social context. Without others, there is no language, no logic, and no standard for success. We are constantly, involuntarily measuring our own value against the existence of the people around us. This presents a brutal dilemma. If the very presence of other people is the root of our suffering, how do we exist in society without completely surrendering our freedom? To find the answer, we have to unlearn how we currently think about our own minds. Most of us operate under the theories of Sigmund Freud. We believe that our present unhappiness is a direct result of past psychic wounds. This is a framework called etiology, the study of causation. Think of it like an anchor dropping on a difficult event in your childhood. That anchor pulls a heavy chain forward through time, locking your present and future into place. Because you experienced X in the past, you are doomed to feel Y today. Adler shattered this timeline. He proposed a concept called teleology. Teleology argues that human behavior is not driven by the ghosts of past causes, but by present goals. Apply this to a common issue like severe social anxiety. The traditional view says a person isolates themselves because they were traumatized in the past. Adler argues the exact opposite. The person has a present goal, to avoid the pain of being rejected today. To achieve that goal, they actively manufacture feelings of fear and anxiety as a reason to stay inside. Adler called this specific evasion tactic the life lie. We use elements from our past, our upbringing, or our environment as convenient, ready-made excuses to avoid tackling the terrifying tasks of adult life. The traumas we blame for our failures are highly sophisticated defense mechanisms. We engineer them to protect ourselves from the inevitable friction of dealing with other people. Comparing ourselves to others is entirely natural. A healthy feeling of inferiority acts as a launch pad. You see a gap between where you are and your ideal self, and that gap motivates you to study, train, and grow. The danger is when that healthy drive mutates into an inferiority complex. This happens when you start using your perceived shortcomings as a shield. You tell yourself, "I don't have a prestigious degree, therefore I cannot succeed." The lack of a degree is no longer an obstacle to overcome, it is an excuse to stop trying. This complex forces you to view life entirely wrong. Instead of seeing personal progression on a flat plane where everyone moves at their own pace, the perspective distorts. Life becomes a rigid, zero-sum competition. You are locked in a race where there are only winners and losers. Operating with this competitive mindset warps reality. If you must win, others must lose. Suddenly, everyone around you, your coworkers, your friends, even your family, transforms into a potential enemy waiting to judge, mock, or attack you the moment you stumble. To survive in a landscape filled with enemies, we become obsessed with their judgment. We develop a paralyzing desire for recognition. We crave praise to prove we are winning, and we dread criticism because it signals defeat. By constantly seeking approval to pacify these perceived enemies, we throw away our authentic selves. We end up living our entire lives simply to satisfy the expectations of other people. Adler offered a specific tool to escape this endless cycle of social friction. He called it the separation of tasks. To untangle any social mess, you must ask a single question: whose task is this? Once you identify your task, you protect it, and just as importantly, you violently refuse to interfere in tasks that belong to others. The diagnostic test is incredibly simple. Who bears the final, real-world consequence of a specific choice? If your child refuses to study, the consequence of poor grades falls on them. Studying is their task, not yours. Apply this to a toxic workplace. You have an irrational boss who yells at you and refuses to acknowledge your effort. Doing your job well is your task, but whether your boss recognizes it, likes you, or manages their temper, that is strictly their task. It is completely out of your control. Worrying about how others judge you is picking up emotional baggage that isn't yours. You have to actively discard other people's tasks. When you stop trying to manage the expectations of others, you will inevitably upset people. Someone, somewhere, will disapprove of you, but that disapproval is their task to deal with, not yours. True freedom is simply having the courage to be disliked. It is the only way to step off the racetrack, drop the excuses, and live authentically in the present.